Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another playday of Season 3 of AEL. It's flown by, and just yesterday we saw an incredible game. Today we have another three lined up for ourselves. Today it's going to be an incredible start. I'm McCready. Joining me today is going to be Piercing, who has just brought us back. Piercing, how are you feeling about today?
I'm doing all right. Whoa, I am having some technical difficulties here. It looks like, but yeah, I'm pretty excited for tonight. I see some familiar faces, some familiar teams, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what Reikai Esports will be able to bring forth here. That is a team that I have seen in the past, so that is at least one of many things that I'm.
Yeah, it seems we started to lose him a little bit, but you're back now. But like you say, that's something I'm really looking forward to see. Rick, like you say, it's a team that's coming back. And one thing I want to bring up is I want to bring up the league standings. I mean, if we take a look at this, we can see we've got our two conferences, Commando and Ranger. Basically, how this works is the group stages, just to make sure it's a bit more split, they get split between the two sides. We're going to be on the right-hand side today at the middle of that table for our first game. Reikai and Orgless Goobers. Both teams have lost their first game. Both teams are looking to get themselves that victory, get themselves onto those 7 points, and put themselves up higher in that leaderboard. Granted, there are a couple more games that we need to look at today, and that's exciting myself as well. But for now, we're just gonna zone in on these two at the start. Corvus Corps and Reikai, they both lost their first game, and they both lost as a 4-7. So there's no real round differential there, is there? Oh, August, sorry, yeah, that's
Not at
my
all.
bad.
No, I
So
definitely think
this
there's an
it's
opportunity for pushback here.
Yeah, I feel like these teams. This is the moment where they can really start to bring it together. If we bring up the stats, we take a look at how these teams have done in the head-to-head as an overall team. I feel like you can see that August they've won one more round on the defense on the attack, sorry, than the defense, and I feel like that's really where we're going to start to see which team can really bring it back. I mean, they've took the attack, they had an extra round on it, and that's where a lot of teams tend to struggle is the attack. A lot of teams can defend. The attack is where you need to really know what to do. And the maps that we're going to be looking at today, they're maps that really focus on attackers that can take control and start putting pressure on. I feel like they might go into there with an advantage, but I mean, look at how close that is. There's nothing really different between that aside from that percentage at the moment. Yes, there's a little bit of change on the plant percentage, but that can also just be tied into the fact that one team's only played only a couple amounts of attack, and one team's played more attacking rounds than the other one. So I feel like there's not really a lot of information to go off at the moment when you look at the head-to-head. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring up some of the team stats. So we're going to bring up the first team. So the first team we're going to look at the moment is Reikai. Looking at their player to watch, that's going to be Hacker. In the first game they played, did really well. A good KDR. You can see, like you say, the kills per round, consistent. Survivability, not as amazing, but that's not really a problem when you've got the rest of the team to back things up. As long as you can back that up, that's what you want to see. Only 11 rounds played so far and a point 0.9 at KDR, so I feel like there's things to be improved on, but they could definitely look at bringing it back. I mean, they lost against Corvus, they're looking to make that win onto Orgless today. Yeah, yeah, we're going to take a look at the roster now. We've talked about Hacker, let's talk about some of the rest of them. So, if we take a look at some of these players here, we've got Bottom, Zero, Real, and Love. You can see there, where we get a little bit more information about the rest of the teams. The survivability across the board, Piercing, is a little bit low for myself. A little bit low for my liking. When you look at the KDs,
Yeah.
it's more or less balanced. You don't see anything that's really screaming at you. I mean, yeah, Real's got that point 0.5, but overall, the rest of the team are pretty consistent. It's the survivability for me. Across the board, that's not great, is it?
No, I would have to hard agree with you. The thing that makes me particularly worried about in tandem with the low KD, it is what it is, right? We're just getting
Yeah.
started, no big deal.
It's
What strikes me particularly, even Hacker as their top player also has a low survivability despite that
yeah.
blistering KDR. Now, again, 4-7, but even then, it's still disproportionate. You don't really have a player that you can rely on to kind of bring it to the end. And that's where I kind of have to wonder, maybe that 3% plan is because it shows that they're not making the stretch to the end. It's pretty much a full-on deathmatch for them. If they can't get a wipeout, they're going to kind of burn out in turn. So that is something
Yeah.
I would say to out for folks. That's definitely a not an outlier, not just a coincidence. That's definitely something that needs to be seriously considered as we possibly look into their attack. But moving on from then, we've also got Orgless. So let's see what the Orgless Goobers have got going on. They have so far a 0-1 win-loss. That's going to be on Nate Haven, which was their one map that they played. Again, similar stat lines, but kind of flipped. Instead of a 40% defense, 33% attack, like we kind of saw with Reikai, they have that 40%. So it's a bit unbalanced in that regard. You've got Reikai, who's got a better attack, but you've got Orgless, Reikai better on defense, but Orgless, who's a little bit got that edge on attack. The player to watch, that's going to be Zen with 13 kills, 8 deaths. But still, the SPRs, they're not looking too hot. We're talking we could see some really tough attacks depending on what map we get into. Even though Orgless has a little bit of an edge, I'm still a little worried about how these attacks going to look, what they're going to look like. You kind of mentioned it too. That attack overall can just be really difficult to nail down at these levels.
Yeah, and I feel like that you're touching upon it again. Again, I'm going to keep coming back to that survivability. Zen is only got that 27%. Let's see how the rest of the team match up with this. You said that's something that needs to be consistently a lot higher. Now, bringing up the rest of Orgless Goobers, you're going to have Immune, Fritos, Zen, and Sneaky, as followed out by Demon. Demon's a new pickup, so that's why the stats are 0. So don't call them out for that 0% survivability. The rest of the team, though, they're also sitting at that 27%. But, again, looking at the kills, relatively consistent. There's no real outlier. I think Immune's got the most deficit when it comes to kills to deaths. They're the one the furthest away. But still, that's pretty solid KDs across the board. I feel like going into this, Demon, that's going to be an impact factor for me. How is this going to change things up? Why are they making a change so quickly? Is this a substitute, or is this a player that is kind of bringing in to really step things up from out the gate? They lost the first game, they're looking to make up the ground. And the maps, now, the maps piercing, that's the next bit I could talk about, because these stats are only after one game. So if we take a look at the maps here, we got Borderless, Skyscraper, Clubhouse, and Nighthaven all being banned out very quickly. Clubhouse and Nighthaven, they're the games that these two teams have played last. Joining us is going to be CAF and Consulate, which means that we're not going to be heading to either of those maps, which does mean that Alea is still on the board, but unfortunately, no, that is going to be taken away. Bank joining it, and we are going to find ourselves going through Chalet, a map where a lot of teams tend to kind of know what they need to do, but I think this is where the attack stat starts to come back into it for me, Pearson, because the attack on Chalet needs to be done by a team that know when to pick their moments, know when to find their high impact positions. For example, Piano Hallway, when they're pushing it and how they're pushing it. Do they have roam clear below? Do they have flank watch? And on the flip side for the defense, are they reacting properly? Are they getting the flanks in the right places? This is where we're really going to see just where the basics of both teams really work. And if there are issues, that's where we're going to find them. But Chalet, it's a map that I quite enjoy to watch. I don't know your thoughts on it, and I do want to hear those.
Yeah, I mean, again, I still think this is going to be tricky for both teams. I don't think there's going to be a clear advantage, but we're going to see what that edge could possibly be if one is to arise. Both 4-7, so there is a comeback story for at least one of these teams tonight. So we're going to see just that. Go, Reikai versus Orgless Goobers.
Exactly. Going into the first couple of attacker bans, I feel like we're going to see Reikai want to take out the attacking hard breach, because with this new ban system, the way that it works, you can get all three of those key hard breach players off the board. On the flip side, we're going to see an anti-shield meta, which does make a lot of sense. Blitz, Blackbeard, Monty, they found themselves quite powerful. Joining themselves is going to be Clash on the defense, which again makes a lot of sense. You can pop that shield down, get that gun, and take gunfights a lot more confidently. The Blackbeard, again, the shields, it makes a lot of sense, but that does mean those hard breaches stay on attack. Reikai, they have to deal with it. They have to be prepared for these breaches to be opened up. So I expect to see the Mirror and Two Brow combo coming in very, very strong, especially on that basement. They know the breach is going to get open. How are they going to deal with it? They don't have a Clash, they don't have an Azami, but they have the Mirror windows. They have the Vectors, they have the Venria with the MP7. there's a lot of work you can do. Orgless Goobers, they're going to have to start things out strong. Get that breach open, maybe rotate over towards that trench side. And if they're able to do that, do they have that flank towards blue? Do they have that player above? And how are Reikai going to answer it? I'm very excited to kick things off. Very excited to see how things start. And while this prep phase begins, this is where we're going to get the juice, how this round's going to play out. And you can see a couple of barricades going on upstairs. Somebody's going to be roaming, which means that dining hatch is most likely going to be open for some of these defenders to rotate back. I think it might be bottom who's looking to go above. With that bailiff, they can make those lines of sights down below, spot these attackers when they're going in. Really just apply a lot of pressure early round. And if they can do that, then they can hopefully buy the rest of Reikai's some time. As the round does start out, you can see they're going for a very solid dining hold. They've got the mirror window, they've got the Goyos. They're going to be holding this, and they are going to have that clear entry back onto site. So if that dining falls, that's a plank going down. So that's the win condition for Orgless here.
Yep, that's going to be the play of action for Orgless. The thing that I'm curious about is we saw a heavy setup definitely on vertical, which is kind of dicey because if your drone work is clean, which is hard to say considering we're already seeing 3 drones down off the rip, which is not ideal circumstances, but we're seeing heavy investment from Reikai over by kitchen side to try and deny that vertical. Pretty much counter to the opposition they just opted for. I would love to kind of pick the brain to see why that is, but for now, we're just gonna have to be satisfied with the fact that this is what we're getting, and it comes down to heads up because this is an untraditional setup when it comes to a basement hold, having such a deep extension. If Orgless Goobers doesn't break this down systematically, this could really break them before they even have a chance to set foot in basement. Now we're gonna see them start to try to clear. They know there's one close, but we're gonna see that fall off. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, exactly. That dining setup is something I do expect to see, and that's why you can see the Dokkaebi and the Grid and the Gidemos, they're a lot more confident going for that attack. It's over here. It's towards that game site because half that round is gone, and only now is Cade falling back to sight. So is Mirror, a minute ticking off the clock, and while the Dokkaebi scans do come out, Reikai, they've done the job. They can start heading back. They've got all 5 players on the board on the defense, and with 1 minute left, Orgless are going to have to start making their attack. Utility gets taken away. Attackers, they start to look at this verticality, but this push is going to have to come, and Reikai need to make sure that Orgless are as unprepared for it as possible. And now as they rotate over towards the breach, they know they're going to get it off because those K-Claws are gone, but they know they have to deal with these defenders, don't they?
Well, and worse yet, you've also had the Two-Brow to kind of slow things down, but despite that, they do still manage to get those walls open. But here's the other thing that you don't tend to see a whole lot with Two-Brows. It doesn't mean you're going to get a clean walkthrough. Those Two-Brows can still slow down foot movement, and that can mean that you're not going to be able to get those wild swings that you need in order to, you know, get that execute going, get that positional displacement. You're not going to get it. The fire does roll out. One does go down after another. That's 2 big initial entry takes, and that's going to allow them to start making that main pivot. They still got to wait for that Goyle fire, but it's still burning with 10 seconds remaining. That's a big vulnerability. You still got one over in kitchen. Manages to catch one. 7 seconds on the clock. Now the move down has to begin. They do get a big punishment, but there's still a retaliation down by main stairs, and the diffuser is stopped with the nitro. Can't even get the plant off. The clock's so close, but the nitro rings true, and it's all it takes. Never underestimate the damage you can do with such utility.
That's what it was all about there for that game for me. Like you said, the tuber out, it slows them down. Yes, it doesn't stop it can stop the breach getting open. It didn't in this case, but that's not the important bit. It was the Goyo on main stairs. It stopped that thermite from getting down. It stopped the plant from going down at the right moment. And then as soon as that happened, you could see the defenders, like you said, they'd retaken that second floor. They took the dining. The verticality went in favor of the defense. And suddenly, the attackers, they were left in the worst position possible. Beautiful timing coming out from the defenders, swinging with only a couple of seconds left on that plant, just in time to get the kill, just in time to make the last attacker sprint in there, just to catch that C4 to the face. A very strong round coming out from Reikai. Orgless, they had the right idea. They just started to stall out a little bit. I think they just didn't have enough momentum to carry them out. They got that top floor fast. They didn't get that medium as quick as they rented. And the Reikai were allowed to just pull back safely and play the game the way they intended. So now we're going to be heading to Bar Gaming, another site which is very vertical focused. It's all about that library side and how library is held. You typically have a player over towards piano, over towards that mezzanine area, so you'll see Hacker most likely has a shield over towards blue. You typically get a shield to where they're stood right now, but there's only one on the side of Reikai, so they might have that player being a little bit more fluid in their movements. And maybe have a Roma over towards Dining, make sure they can't get flanked. Realistically, this is what Orgless are probably expecting to run into a little bit more, because nobody tends to expect a basement right off the bat. And let's see how they're going to deal with this. They need to go for that roam clear again. They need to get that verticality down, and can they do it as quickly as they need to?
I mean, yeah, that's going to be the big question to be had. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they could potentially try to force this if they really wanted to. It's within the realm of possibility when you've got Smokes and other utility like that for backup. It's just a matter of what angle Orgless Goobers want to take and what openings are presented to them. Reikai is still running a very standard composition, so by the time they get library cleared up, there's nothing major that could really choke them up other than maybe some well-placed nitros if Orgless Goobers just don't watch their footsteps. But all it takes is really a double window. You don't even have to commit that far, but you still have that standard blue hall shield hold. So it's still going to take a standard breakdown in order to make major grounds, but Orgless Goobers seeks to do so. They're going to have to start moving at a bit of a faster pace. So far, they're pretty slow on their setup. They haven't even broken into library yet. And remember, as the time ticks down, your movements get more predictable, and that's just more opportunities to get burned. But regardless, despite that, dude do manage to catch real. That's one down. A double kill ensues. That's going to be from the window. That's an opening for them to try to go for that double window force. You already saw the Smokes lined up potentially to try to run that down. So there's a good chance they could try to get away with it. But Bottom is looking to make some damage, has a nitro free place, throws it off, goes off, and it will be able to catch one. That's going to be sneaky off the board. That's their ace. Another taken off from Connector. Now 2v4. No one on site. Orgless Goobers has every opportunity to drop down right now, and they can afford it with minimal consequences. And there it is. Smoke's going out. Sam with the flashes. And now the walk down for blue stairs. Looking to possibly try to upset that, and does manage to take one. Now has a possibility to try to fight that double window. Catches Connector. Shut down. Bottom gets taken out. And there's the follow-up, as Orgless Goobers will be able to take their first.
Yeah, that's a much tighter round from Orgless Goobers. They had that vertical control very quickly. Demon, a really good couple of kills to open things up. They took those two players, like you said. The player over towards site and the player over towards that mezzanine area got taken away almost immediately. That meant then that Reikai were in a state of recovery. They're constantly chasing their tails, get back to site, get back into these positions, and try and claw back what we can. A nice C4 coming out from bottom, no doubt with some coordination from the vertical above, but at that point, time was wasted. Time was given to Orgless Goobers to really get the pieces in play. I'm surprised we didn't see the play go down a little bit quicker with a player over towards that stock side, but Orgless did have time to work with. It did come down to Immune getting a quick 2 kills to bring things back, because they let them really just walk into sight. They let them try and go for the retake. Bottom nearly was able to get that off, but it just wasn't meant to be. Reikai now not able to get that bar game in sight. They're going to head over towards the kitchen dining because, well, this is a site that I really enjoy piercing because it's essentially like reading dining on cafe. It's more or less a top floor hold with a few variations until the last 30 seconds. So you're still going to approach it the same way. You have that library extension. You've got the utility over there to put the pressure on them, especially with these frost mats, really make life a lot harder for the attackers. Then, when it gets to the last 30 seconds, you can test that top floor, and then you just pull back. You pull back, you wait for that site, and just like we saw in the first round, Reikai, they're just going to look to have as many bodies on site, waste the time, and then just take advantage of all this, like you say, predictably having to run into these kill boxes that they've set up. Orgless Goobers, they're going to be expecting this just a little bit more like they did on the bar gaming. They're going to have to get that top floor site. They're going to have to get control of that canine area. You can see Hacker playing in, so you can get the utility off the wall, get that main dining hall open, and most importantly, not be susceptible for vertical on that plan. The drones will start to come through, they'll get that information, they'll realise there's a frost mat, there's somebody we might have to clear down below because that hatch is open, we need to worry about these roamers. At least do your due diligence with the drone. You don't necessarily have to send a player there, but just make sure you've at least checked everything. Drones start to come through. Nothing really starts so far. You see bottom playing very aggressive here, gets droned out, realizes that they might have a little bit of a gunfight coming up soon. And if they're going to be playing anything like they have so far, I'm looking forward to this one.
I am quite enthralled by their foothold setup, just because it allows to go for long shots all the way into library denial, and I think that's a big disruption tool that isn't used enough by teams. I do like to see that, but for Orgless Goobers, they do have some flexibility in their composition. They can go Solarian side if they want to, and that's just thanks to, you know, having Buck and Grim, as well as Gridlock to kind of lock out Kitchen and tag above. So they do have that pivot option. They don't have to commit to this, but so far, time-wise and positionally, it does look like they're kind of in for the long haul. Not two Frost Mats, no! Zen gets dropped on the Frost Mat. We even saw Sneaky get dropped on it too. Oh, such a shame. Gotta hurt just a little bit. I mean, quite a lot. I mean, you're talking two players losing most of all of their health, and another goes out too. That's Frito's Immune taking a big amount of damage, also eliminated. And before we see a pressure onto Piano, already there's a major fold for Orgless Goobers. Major player loss, only 2 remaining against 5, and with the time remaining and the lack of operator flexibility, it's now going to be up to these 2 players. We see a really bold walk up into Piano, but a bit staggered, not aiming where the player actually was, unfortunately. And that's just going to be up to Zen, who's still outside. I hate to call it so early, but this is kind of a done deal. Orgless Goobers wanted to commit to library side, and they unfortunately do not have anything to show for it.
Yeah, you can see Zen here looking to try and play on that cutoff, but when it's just Demon and Zen playing over towards that site, realistically it's not the place they need to be. They need to be playing the refrag, but they can't get over that quickly. Like you say, the Frost Mats, they're just going to slow the players down. They take away the HP. There's such a long speed debuff that realistically you hit that Frost Mat, you're just not getting that sprint back. You might as well accept it. These rounds feel like they're going by very, very quickly, which is a great thing for Reikai, because they're sat there, they're sitting pretty, they're getting an opening pick, and they're just wasting time, and it's going quick. But Orgless, they feel like at the moment, a couple of rounds in, they hit their stride and they're doing great. But they hit the one pebble on that road. That's where the issues start to come through. They lost that player to those little holes over towards that mezzanine side by the Azami, and that's when the round slowed down. So understandably, Orgless are going to go for a timeout. They're going to take that opportunity with the operator bands coming through to take away the castle, take away the Monty. They're going to take that opportunity to just continue the conversation. I mean, you can look at Reikai, they're happy, you know, they're enjoying themselves, they're chatting on it. But I feel Orgless, they're a little bit more stone-faced, as you can see from those player cams. There's no real emotion on that at the moment. They need to be saying, right, what's going wrong? Where's our issues? Why are we just stumbling? Once something goes wrong, what are we doing to fix this? Because that's where it's gone wrong so far. They've lost these opening gunfights. They've lost, say, control on the site. That's it for me. Again, we're coming down to the survivability. I mean, we've not seen a single plank go down so far, and I feel like we're going to see a lot of these rounds closed out on the gunfights, or at least on time, because getting that plank down just doesn't seem to be on the cards at the moment for Orgless. They need to change that if they want to start putting rounds on the board.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at how Orgless Goobers has played at this point, like you said, it's been very frag heavy. The whole reason they won first floor was because they just wiped the floor on their extension, punished it heavily. You know, you compare it to here, you've got choke points that you have to cover, you've got, I mean, plant exposure that you need to try to protect. Pretty much all of the asset setup that they need is not happening. It's really been...
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much they get their preliminary setups, and that's really all they have going for them. That's not going to be a good recipe for success on Chalet. There are at least 2 out of 3 of these sites. It's very hard to get in, even with a significant player advantage, if you're not doing your proper setup. I mean, you can get 2 V5s or even 1 V5 clutches off of those 2 sites. First floor, no. But I'm reloading. These other 2 sites are a lot more doable. So Orgless Goobers just has to have a little bit of a more objective-based mindset when it comes to how they're going about pushing these objectives. Sure, you can walk into the fray all day, every day. A lot of teams like to get gutsy like that. Doesn't mean you're going to have success with it. And unfortunately for Orgless, they really haven't. And especially with the extensions that Reikai are bringing out, it's a lot tougher to just walk straight in, because you can't do an instantaneous 180 at every corner when trying to take initiative, unless you're like Shaiko or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I want to talk about. Orgless, they need to be objective. They need to be methodical with this, because that's what's not been there so far. They need to look at one of these objectives and decide that that's what they're going to do. And that's what they're going to deal with. Love, though, is going to find a kill, will take down Ren. A huge operator to take away that ram. The verticality, it's gone. And with 2 minutes left, that's badly needed, because that's not been used really at all. Now, Orgless, they seem to have stalled out again. Something's gone wrong. They don't have that vertical control that they needed. How are they going to deal with this? Demon is going to start walking through that main lobby. He gets that camp, but now Zeros is alert. They know that this has happened, and now they're just going to drop back as well. They even get the K-Claw to go down onto the breach. And a minute 30 left on the clock, Orgless. They can take control of this verticality, but now they need to start thinking about the site. There's no verticality to deal with. They are going to find a refrag and take out that tuber out, but as soon as that breach opens, they need to start thinking about pushing that alt garage or blue. That's when they really need to have that second front ready, because otherwise all 4 guns of Reikai are just going to stare at them.
Right. And so far we are seeing they're going for getting those back wine walls open, which is a big pivot that gives them the space to fight a multi-front instead of just walking into those Goyos and being completely helpless. They're at least learning from past mistakes, because that was really where they lost that out. Once that Nitro hit the fuse, they didn't have, you know, an option to pivot there. There was basically not even a second of time to try to redirect. They were really constrained. Now there's a little bit more flexibility, but Frito goes down. That already makes things a little bit tough. But we're gonna see Sneaky try to run this down anyway, force that plant. But Connector's completely stuck. Love will run into the loving hands of a DMR. MK14 EBR shutting that down, putting it 3 and 3. The fuser is down. You cannot underestimate that wine spot. It is powerful. And with that, we're gonna see a big rundown, huge damage, and a little bit of a whiff too, as Orgless Goobers will be the one to take this off of a clean rundown into a wine plant. There you go.
Yep.
Talk about playing objective.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried when they didn't deal with these mirror windows and that vertical floor, but they were able to bring it back. I mean, the players, or the actual defenders, Love got their kill and dropped off. Zero got droned out, ran away, played that site and said we just got to play it together. That meant at least Orgless was able to just pivot. They didn't worry about the verticality. They should have been aware of somebody flanking. Somebody should have been holding a flank cam just in case. But they were able to just focus. They got the boiler open, they had the long angle open to cut off that connector door, and by doing so, they had the gridlock on the hatch as well. With that, the nades come out, they put the pressure on, they can't jump, the defenders can't move out of that connector side with all those cross angles in that position. They can't walk out, which means they can't stop that flank go down. They can't get a good C4 off because they know they'll die. In the risk and reward, they need to keep themselves alive just a little bit longer for the end gunfight. That meant flank goes down. Orgless, they can start to turn things around, get that control again, get that momentum of what they've been missing from those 2 rounds they've lost so far. That's how they're able to bring that round back, get those kills. That was much better. I want to see it happen again. Now, Reikai, I want to notice they've not really brought out that top floor site, which you normally expect. Because they're just going to keep it in the back pocket. I mean, when they have the opportunity to do something like that, they'll go for a run out. They're not going to find their mark, though, and it's going to be Frilton, who's just going to have that glass ready to hopefully try and catch something. Not going to happen in this case. Oh, well, that's not the end of the world if you didn't get the kill. No one's side.
Yeah, take a look at that composition. You see what Orgless Goobers is bringing forth. Glass, Sense, Capital. You know what they're going to do. They're going to try to force that window hop. And, I mean, already one off the board. That's Hacker taken out. That's their top frag eliminated. All they need is to smoke off and send it, and they're helpless to stop it. The only nitro you have is from Zero, but if you get rid of that connector position, then that's it. right? That is your golden ticket. You don't have anyone who can physically stop it. Now the Capital Bolt's going out, and he'll be able to down Love. Thanks to that double window hold plus the Capital Bolts, it's going to pay off tremendously. Now Love is kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place. Completely exposed, not going to be able to go for a revive here, but also can't confirm the kill here either. So it's a bit of a time waste, but for one confirmed down, it's worth it unless you try to get greedy, go for blood, in which case, if you're sneaky, you end up getting eliminated. That's one set of smokes that is now down, as well as hard breach. They're kind of stuck in full sending this double window play, as they don't really have the hard utility to back up a change up at this point. We're already now hearing those smokes coming off. It looks like they're now hunting for that opportunity, but there's still danger. There's still a Nitro, and there's a Frostbat 3 times, and the Nitro to confirm it from Zero. Now the diffuser is dropped in Reikai's territory, meaning you're gonna have to, well, double or nothing. Are they gonna double it, or are they gonna get nothing? We'll find out in a second, but looking at the health, looking at this overall situation, it's possibly looking like nothing, though could be a double, as Fritos does manage to catch Zero out from connector. That's a big opportunity, especially to be on a site. Whoa, okay, that's a prone body wall bang. Didn't see that one coming, but Fritos nailed it. Gets the counter from above. That's gonna be real. Now gonna be a 1v2, but the down on the window vault doesn't matter. It's nothing, as Reikai will reclaim the lead.
A really good opportunity there from Zen and Fritos to bring it back and finally take the lead in this game so far, but it wasn't meant to be. I feel like it just comes down to that top floor again. The vertical taking control. Orgless are struggling when it comes to getting that control. Take a look at this. We see the jump goes through. They've lost 2 players. Like you said, they have to jump into that side. They had smoke. They had the sense gadgets. They can go for that push, but it's essentially a dinner bell for the defenders. As soon as the jump comes in, they hear the frost mine go up, the frost trap go off, the C4 follows. That's the case. That's the plan to take it away. Suddenly, having the player above and the player down below, that's a lot more awkward. Fritos and Zen are cut off. They can't play together. They can't refrag, which means Zen, yes, Fritos are able to find 2 incredible kills, but as soon as Zen falls, that's when they get taken away. They needed that library control a lot earlier, and Reikai did a great job of shutting them down to stop them from getting it. And now Reikai going to find themselves not going to that top floor at all in this game. They're going to head back to kitchen dining, and like we said, this is essentially a top floor hold regardless. Again, we're seeing bottom on the Aruni, and we're seeing Love on the Frost. So we're expecting to see the same utility setup, so the same lines of sight. They can shut down the main stairs, they could shut down the blue. This is where Aruni's really going to step things up. Again, we're going to see August, so they're going to change a few things. They're going to bring that Bravo, which I think is a really good choice when you look at the utility on the board, you look at the Fenrias, you look at the Arunis. Just turning it in your favor is just a little bit nicer, really. And then bringing out the Deimos as well. It allows them to worry about roamers. It allows them to make sure they know that there's at least one unknown factor that's taken away. And if they can get a gunfight and get a kill off of it, even better. As the round starts things off, again, we're seeing this Bravo start up very quickly. Get the utility, start taking it in their favor. Take those Fenrir gadgets as well, because that's going to be huge in shutting down the aggression from Reikai. I like seeing that. But again, I need to see what's happening with this verticality. I need to see Orgless take control. Maybe get a player over towards that piano window side as a cutoff. Oh, so much utility being taken away. I mean, fair play. There's no way to shut this Brav down. With the mute on the board, none of the defenders are playing on site at the moment, aside from one, which means nobody's stopping them. They just can't keep getting away with this. The mute's going to spot it and only just take them down. 2 minutes. 2 minutes left on the clock, and Orgless, they have a lot of utility on their side now to work with, but nothing that's actively going to help them. The onus is still on them to start things off. They have Mez control, and they're going to hopefully start applying pressure. And Mew's going to find 2 kills to start things off from that window.
That is really bad. That's exactly what I was afraid of. All that information, all the util taken away. They pretty much had the jump knowing that there's so little presence onto first floor, and they've already gotten massive punishment towards site other than Zero, who's still on site, but that's about it. You still have 2 players above. That's a big punishment for Orgless Goobers. You don't have to worry about the vertical when you taking all of that on-site utility because it's unprotected. And then you can just jump in and start slamming players on first floor. Unless this vertical goes poorly, they're looking good. But so far, that's already a pushback as Zen will get taken out from a good old swing coming in from Real. Now going to be 3 to 4. If they can hold this, perhaps still, there is a chance they do get that ball back. Already we're seeing Orgless Goobers getting ready for that front-ended plant towards dining side. If it all comes down to this walk-up, if they can nail that, it's going to be trouble for Reikai, but you still have one able to hold 0. Vertical not fully established here. Clock starting to crinkle down a little bit, but they know there's one close to the corner. Tries to fight it off, but 0 will get flushed out. That's how you use a nade. Push that power position out. That's big. Now with the smokes out, no nitrous remaining, there is a clear opportunity to try to go for a plant, but it goes wrong. The fuse is taken out, but it doesn't matter. Orgless Goobers will be able to sweep up the last, keeping the numbers up and clean. Nice shot through smoke too.
And again, it comes down to his top floor. Now, Orgless, they did exactly what I said. They put a player on that piano window, and they were able to get those 2 kills off the board. The rest of that top floor crumpled. There was a refrag, but they had to back things up. They didn't want to play aggressive, and they didn't want to... Reikai didn't want to lose players on that top floor, so they went back down to site. They gave Orgless a control, they let them get the breach open, and with one of those players trying to flank and just getting picked off by the aware attackers, that was well played. That was a really good round. I wish we saw it a little bit earlier in that half, but we are going to head on to the switch. A 3-3 scoreline. Both teams really starting to find their own swing of things once things are going right for them. And we're going to take a look at the operator bands. We've got the Cade and the Clash being taken away on the defense. The Cade makes a lot of sense. The Clash, we've already explained it once. I don't need to do it again. The Cade, we saw how impactful that Cade was when it was in the right positions. When you had a Cade that was actively using them as well. They were using them mid-round and swapping them over. I think Orgless just wanted, Reikai just said they didn't want to deal with that. They didn't want to stress about it. That's not happening. Monty's going to be taken away as well as the Ace, and again, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, the Ace allows that, varied cartridge, but also it isn't like a Hibana pellet that goes off a lot quicker. It's a lot more versatile where you can put it, and it still has a guaranteed vault hole as long as someone's shooting it. But if someone's shooting it, you should be taking that gunfight anyway, or you shouldn't be using that gadget. To take that Ace off the board, the attackers are left with a couple of options. They've either got the Thermite, where they have to get up close and personal with that wall and possibly expose themselves to C4s, roamers, whatever they like, or Hibana, which takes a while, can go wrong, and most importantly, is very easy for defenders to shoot off, or Kate or Bandit Trick, whatever they want to do. Or they have the option, which is the same issue as the Thermite, of getting up close and personal. And they've got the hard breach gadgets, which they're good in a pinch, they're good to use and good to have, especially for hatches, but when you're relying on them on a breach, which it looks like what they're going to do with Real over there with those hard breach gadgets, I don't feel like that's the best way to go. They've got the Hibana at least, so they can make those sightlines over to Solo most likely. How this round's going to play out? Let's find out, because we've got Orgless with that roam again. They've got that typical extension. And now Reikai, they're going to have their first crack of attacking.
There's almost this bit of meticulousness that I've noticed in Orgless Goobers when it comes to their setup. We kind of saw that with the Brava. We saw that with how they went about their second floor and third floor moves on that site. And I'm curious to see how meticulous they will be in going about their defense. I mean, we've got quite an elaborate setup coming from them, all the way from, half wall all the way to library. It seems all is intentional, right? It's not set up for the sake of it. Ooh, that could be bad. Aiming from below, possibly if one double window. But no one's really there, unfortunately, to capitalize it on the side of Reikai, despite properly spotting that. Minute and 38. No one has been even so much as really damaged other than Immune, who's taken just a little bit of pop shots and Real, but no serious contact yet. As you still have a lot of presence from Reikai on the first floor, trying to hunt somebody above, but not really getting anything tangible yet. It does look clear as day, though, that they're going to be heading to Solarium, but getting to that actual stairs position honestly is half the battle if you're going to make that kind of play. And so far, they haven't really got any significant roots. And it's going to be tough to do that when you have 3 nitros that you have to be paranoid about, as well as your double window cover being shut down by Demons out.
Oh no.
It's gonna just make that all the more difficult, and this could get a little hairy. Demon looking to try to take one from the vertical, but almost loses her head herself. Does manage to get out though, but that's still some major damage. Meanwhile, we got Fritos below, looking to try to disrupt that vertical. 1 nitro rips true, takes another, but there's gonna be 2 eliminated in turn, back to back. That's our nitro players, all but Fritos, who still has 1 remaining. 26 seconds, 1 back on the double window. That's gonna be real, but there's still no second floor presence to speak of. Bottom, now finally making it over to Solarium. But this is still going to be a deep and dangerous pivot they have to make quickly, especially when one's still below. Now primed and ready to try to send a nitro, attempt to defuse the fails, it doesn't connect, but you got the closet pushback, that's coming from Zen. That's big, 2 down, 1 to go. Real stuck on the window, nowhere to go. The push has failed, Orgless Goobers holds it down.
The push coming out from the castle there, huge play there. Most importantly, they took that gunfight. The Valk put the C4 down below. They were ready for that attack from Reikai. Orgless Goobers, a very good retake. They wasted a lot of time. They took that double window player very quickly. That meant Real had to rotate over, was able to find a couple of kills, but because they were playing that angle, they had to watch the cross. If they didn't stop watching that cross and they pulled out that gadget, yes, they could flame up the rotate, they could stop the players from rotating, but they'd then be vulnerable. Players could cross while they're doing the swap. That could have caused a lot more issues. And it caused delays. Orgless Goobers, they retook very well, they won their gunfights, and most importantly, Reikai, they were red. They were red into. They tried to get that verticality down below, and Orgless Goobers just didn't give it to them. And as soon as they started pushing up, that's when Demon dropped and just said, right, well, you know, I'm going to do a bit of work myself, get that C4 off the rip, get that player if we can. Very, very well played. Reikai, they needed to be a little bit quicker with it, something you saw Orgless kind of struggle with in their attack. Go to this bottom floor now. We do have an Azami on the board, for at least this round, so we can see all the line of sights being brought out, all the little angles that you're going to want to see the defenders taking as much abuse of. Going towards that corner side, they've got to open, so they're going to play behind it, they're going to play aggressively. Pretty much what we saw Reikai do on their top floor. They're going to try and force Reikai to take these gunfights. Bringing out the fuse instead of the Brander, that's a big change that we're seeing on the side of Reikai from Orgless. They're bringing out that fuse for the same reason we saw the Gridlock use those frag grenades from the hatch. They're going to use it for that vertical, they're going to use it as area denial. They're not intending to get kills, they're just going to stop defenders from pushing into these positions, from pushing out a connector, from pushing over towards blue, because if they can do that, then that gives them areas that they know they're going to have control over. Already starting to feel a bit of pressure from that dining side, walking into the mirror setup, but I expect the client to have an answer to this, know how to deal with it, because it's a setup they run themselves. They should know where the weaknesses are and how to deal with it. Possibly the verticality. Is that the case, Bob? I don't think Reikai going to bother. They're going to get that breach open and then take it from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've got their main setup, and they know very well about this mirror setup, like you said. So there's a lot of opportunities for Reikai to fight this back, especially if they push from trophy side. That's completely undefended right now. That's a big vulnerability, but it's one that Reikai is not really taking at the moment, and they are going to try to get an opening. You've also got Zero now starting to lay out those cluster charges, sending down. That's going to destroy a lot of potential utility. You've got Jaegers, Legions, Zombies, all that can be disrupted. However, despite that, Fritos will be able to catch Zero from above. That was that second floor player, and no more of those pucks are going to come into play, but Bottom will be quick to the whip to catch Fritos out, getting that refrag, but still, util-wise, the damage is done, but this does mean there's no more Legion Goomines to watch Demon's back end, so that one pivot could prove trouble, or, as we're seeing right now, Demon could just continue to hold it down with really no major pushback, though you definitely got a lot of eyes on it at the moment. Regardless, we'll see Sneaky get taken out as well, and Demon looking to try to push up, try to retake some lost space. Love going down, that's going to be thanks to Zen, but we're not seeing a reclamation of that first floor space, losing that blue player as well. forcing Demon to now fall back. That's a worse for wear trade, taking one, but then getting traded back. It looks like they're not going to be able to return that sneaky differential when it comes to their player count. But with 20 seconds on the clock, that mirror's done its job. It's stalled a major amount of time, and ooh, that's got to sting. Mune trying to counter the verticality, but Real is just better on the shots and able to nail it out. Now with the Fuser going down, it's going to be all up to Demon on that Wine Breach to try to salvage this situation, but will get cut off on Connector as Reikai will take another.
Taking that gunfight through the verticality on the Capitao, I don't think that was the right decision there for Orgless, because as soon as that died, the other player was Demon. Demon was stuck in that boiler area. You could see there was a player on that hatch, and they had to push it. They had to swing it. So here, Immune taking that gunfight, I don't think that was the way to go, because then it put Demon in such an unwinnable position. That Thermite had gone around to the main breach, and they'd just gone for the plant. They knew they had that advantage. They knew they had that control. And they were just able to take control of it. Reikai, that was good again. We saw good vertical control. Yes, they lost a couple of players, but they were able to bring it back. They weren't losing players and just doing nothing for it. There were refrags. There was things gained from each time they lost a player. So that was a good attack. I want to see them do something similar again this round. Orgless on the defense, how would I expect to see them play it? Differently? I mean, it comes down to, I want to see Demon win those gunfights. We know they that I want to see them walk up that west main and find that head first. It didn't feel like they were ready to take a gunfight so quickly, so they didn't really perform as well as they wanted. I'd like to see them do it. I'd like the idea of having that lurking player. It could have gone very, very differently in how that round ended up, because they could have taken that down in control. They could have just stopped the vertical pressure coming out from Reikai, which is what really did them in at the end of the round. Did Orgless in at the end of the round. So I feel like the roaming element, the lurking element, that's a good idea. We need to keep that in there. Again, you are going to see the mirror window setup staying on that dining side alongside that boiler position with the water. Going to be very difficult to push out. And as we saw, Zen found that early pick coming out from it. Hopefully they could do that one more time. But there's a bit more pressure over towards Solar. This means, Pearson, that there's a bit more support for Demon. If they do start to feel that pressure, then that Leisure could come along, apply pressure towards that trophy side. And then it also allows Demon to do this. Start to roam around a little bit. They don't have to stay in that dining side if they know their back's covered. That means they can apply pressure over towards that dining side, finding a kill onto bottom, for example, taking away the gridlock, which was one of the big problems each time we've seen Orgless try and defend this site.
Though, you gotta remember, there's a lot of phantom pressure going around, but despite that, Orgless Goobers is pretty much ignoring it right now. I mean, you even got players over by main. Hit by the Nitro, but not able to set it off. Poor Demon right on the money, but just cannot pull the trigger. With a minute and 37 seconds remaining, we're talking about a 3v4 here, and so far, Reikai is struggling with this adaptation you were talking about. Having more numbers stacked over the first floor really just gave some buffer space to ignore that phantom pressure and go for bold. Be bold. And truly, they have done quite well with it. Getting rid of that flank watch, putting themselves at a player advantage, or did put themselves at a player advantage, but we'll see Hacker will disrupt that, still doing what Hacker does, being their top frag. Nitro goes out, doesn't connect, not quite far enough to try to counter that hatch break, but still, that pressure's there. And Reikai is kind of feeling cornered there. They need a breakthrough. Either to get somebody out, but there's that walk-up from Immune. Oh, this time around. Shots are not going to connect, forced to fall back, but what we're looking at is everyone's above, and with 43 seconds remaining, we're not seeing a Goyo or anything that can really hold them back, especially as we see them now start to gun for that wine. But here's the problem though, Love is low, Hacker's dead, they try to go for a plan at this point. Where's the cover gonna be? So far, it's full exposure, but seems that Zero drives in that chaos, able to take one, looking to try to connect onto another, but Sneaky will be able to shut that down. Love now out of options, can't plant, goes for gun, but Immune will be able to take it out.
A much stronger round for them. I'm very happy with how that went out for Orgless, because they fixed the issues. They looked at it and they said, right, we're going to get a player to support Demon. Demon can play a little bit more aggressive. They can be a little bit more confident in how they do things. So they found the opening pick. Yes, they got refranked, but not before they found them. They found this in a 3 versus 3 situation. Now, yeah, 3 versus 3, it is an equal scoreline, but the attackers still have the timer to deal with, which meant that going into the end of that on the 3v3, yeah, there's a 6 defender. That's time. It's not on your side. It is working against you. So that's something we even saw when we saw the Ash of, I believe it was Love, trying to move forward, but then with 30 seconds left, getting a goo mine stuck in them. That meant that they couldn't support Hacker, they couldn't support Real, and as that plant was going down, it was a very, very difficult situation to find themselves in. The Twitch did as much as they could to get the refrags, but DMR in close range, going up against like an Azami and a Fenrir, it's just not going to work. And we are going to see for the first time actually this game piercing this top floor site. The master bedroom CEO office, and it's a default for a lot of teams. Orgless, they're going to look at using it to put themselves onto that all-important match point, try and get themselves the first win in this season so far. Yes, it's only Playdate 2 and their second game, but they still want to make sure they go further with every advantage they have. They had a shaky start, they need to bring it back. But Reikai, they're in the same boat. They're looking to do exactly the same, and they're not going to give it up easy, are they?
No, I certainly wouldn't think so. I mean, they've still made quite a bit of progress into Wine despite kind of how these trades were going out with that disruption. But yeah, the time efficiency wasn't really quite there. They were just losing a bit too much time. But this time they're not looking to waste any time trying to force their way in. But Bottom's going to immediately hit a Legion Goo Mine now with Demon close around the corner, looking to try to pop somebody. The pre-fire comes out and it'll be Bottom coming out on top. That high RPM doing great favors to take Demon out, who is their top frag at a blistering 11-8, with Real on the other side, the closest at 10-4. But that top frag is now down and out. Bottom, worse for wear, but doesn't matter. They got that initial entry, they got that first blood clear. That's ultimately all that matters. But we'll still see that refrag come in from Credos, but it's looking like they're starting to really mount that pressure over towards the library. Initiative to try to disrupt it, ignore the Blackbeard, try to get some damage in. The hit comes out, stuck in, will get blown to smithereens, stuck on connector, and that's another one right in their face as Orgless Goobers falls apart. Tries to extend the first and the same on second. Both fall the same. Now Zen looking to make the most out of the situation on site. Try to at least get some kind of shakeup, but not getting any major ground so far, especially with that shield almost overcommits to the point of getting knocked out. Barely hides it back into cover with 1 minute and 23 seconds. This is a lot of pressure to deal with if you're Orgless Goobers. But at this point, you kind of need to find something. Otherwise, you're kind of in a bad spot here. You have the main util still available. Blackbeard, Flores, Ibana. Well, no more Ibana, but she's already got the brief down. Zen will be able to take Hacker down, but that's still more space as they continue to back up. That allows you to get out of sight. As we see here, Love now at the half wall position, ready to go for a plant. Zen also going down. That's thanks to Zero. Now going to be up against the shield right up to the face. The bash goes in, doesn't connect. Love now at low HP, able to get the shotgun blast, wraps around the corner and catches Zero too, shutting it down. Look at them go. That is how you play tight corners, and that's how you counter the shield meta.
So well played coming out from the shotgun. They're from the mute. They had the Blackbeard so close to them. The Blackbeard, Love, thought he was going to get another shield bash, get another down, get another kill. That just wasn't going to happen because that shotgun found those feet. And then it went for Flores, and then it took them down. Look at this. Very well played from both teams. Reikai, they were in the driver's seat almost the entirety of that round. They took control of that library side. They used the utility. They used the off angles with Hacker at bottom to force that player out of that library side, and then they took the fast control of Mini Piano. It was a very quick round for Reikai. They shifted up the pace, and it should have gone their way, but Orgless bringing it back, sneaky with the shotguns. A beautiful play, like we said. They just able to win those gunfights, and done so in a really, really nice way. We can't talk enough about that. So we're going to find ourselves Orgless on match point. They're looking to get all 6 points for a victory here. And Reikai now, they're locked in the position of the best they can hope for is 4 points. which is not what they need, because 4 points, that puts them at a total of 5. That still puts them behind the US Army Esports, Corvus, Unreal, and Syntax. All 4 of those teams are sitting on 6 points right now, so an overtime win isn't even going to put them on just under being on par with them. They can't really afford that. Orgless, however, an opportunity to leapfrog all of them, at least for the time being, as they do look to seal things out. The Bar Gaming, very aggressive peek from Demon, looking for that main spawn. Not going to find anything because Reikai wisely aren't going to be peeking that, because why would they? Why would they risk giving up something so easily? As you can see, verticality, that's the name of the game for them here. They've got the Flores, they've got an Ammo to get that early control. The Aurora has that DMR, so can do verticality, and most importantly, can shut down the rotates back to site. That's what they're looking for, a fast, hard, and most importantly, a concise push. They need to get their momentum back on their side. And right now you can see Demon feeling very confident with the dog, with the 11 and 8 kill. Not afraid to take those gunfights. Is going to be the first one to get picked off there. And that means Reikai, they're going to start things off with that top 4 control in their favor.
Big start coming in from Reikai, taking out an aggressive peeker like Demon. Kind of backfires heavily. That's where that peeker's advantage starts to really come into full swing. I'm not sure how to feel about Love and Bottom with the Amaru and the Aurora respectively, but I guess we can see kind of the purpose of that, to isolate and try to go for that hunt onto blue stairs. And we see just that fire coming out and now pushing into blue hole. This gives them a little bit of an aggressive edge to try to advance forward, and with no impacts out, you're going to have to get up and close to shoot it out, and that's going to buy precious time to try to take them to the fight, which is what they want. And they also get it up just in time for Bottom to take out Zen. That's a disruption. Now looking for another, but that's the pushback from Frito. Taking 2, taking 3, triple kill, shuts down the blue hole push, and that's going to be full cover provided as we'll see another one. Sneaky taking 0. It's a full fold. They wanted Aurora to lock it out, but they were able to lift the doors and wreak havoc. Now for a bold dive coming from Hacker, trying to salvage the situation, take chip damage. They know where he is, tries to go connector, but Sneaky will be the one to finish it off.
Well played, coming out for the side of Orgless. Really strong. I mean, strong recovery in that round. They lost that early aggression. They lost their top fragger of Demon, who really has got to be a master pickup. Feeling very good about themselves with the showing they put on for their first game of this season as a pickup on this side. But that first round, as soon as they lost that Demon, that's when Reikai should have been putting themselves in the driver's seat. Should have had a player over towards that top mez. Fritos shouldn't have been able to get those 3 kills off the board, but they were able to just shut them down. They gave them one-on-one engagements. They beat them one at a time, and that's where the entire attack just fell apart. Very well played from Orgless just to bring it back and just keep their head in those key positions, in these key moments. And Reikai, there's a little bit to work on as we move forward. They definitely struggle on their defensive side, but their attack was good, to give them credit. So let's talk a little bit about the stats, because I've talked about how it's good, but let's see how they're doing at the moment. You're going to have a look at it. We're going to talk about that survivability. Reikai still struggling on that one. Not a great showing. A couple of players have dropped down from where they were before. But on the side of Orgless, they're doing quite good. I mean, a little bit to improve on, but for me, I'm going to take a look at this cost. Take a look at Love. Take a look at Fritos. These are the players that really put those numbers up. And as well as that bottom as well from Reikai. It feels like, looking at the 2 high-cost players on Reikai, if there was another player that was willing to step up and get those key frags in the same way we saw Fritos and Demon do it, I feel like they could have had a lot stronger time getting that in their favor. I feel like, again though, just really well played. Demon stepped up massively, really shown that they were confident to win those gunfights and get those entry kills, and it just worked out for them. Very well played. So I feel like that's really well earned from Orgless. I mean, I don't know, I want to know your thoughts as well, because I've talked a bit. I want to hear yours now.
So the main thing that I kind of see, and I think this kind of aligns with what we saw a lot of in this matchup, if you look at the highest, rating players, whether it was Bottom or, Love or Real, other than Real, the survival rating is really low. Even their top player, Hacker, had a survival rating of 9.09. I mean, we did see some objective plays. We did kind of see the pivot, but the fact of the matter is, they had a very fatal mindset in the sense that when they want to take a fight, they're gonna gun for it. And we saw a lot of that on attack. A lot of bold initiation trying to get immediate space. That came from bottom quite a lot. We saw many of those exchanges, but the problem then is once it comes down to actually trying to set up, the further away they were from the being able to directly tag and bag the site, the more problems that they were going to face. Meanwhile, Orgs was just, in general, more consistent and just better able to hold themselves. Even though their survival rating was a bit rough too, but they were at least able to carry the wind just long enough to get the job done. And that was kind of the defining difference between the two. But with that being said, folks, we're not done yet. We still got another matchup coming up for you. So, stay tuned. We'll be right back, and you're going to see more of the action in just a moment. See you then. All right, and we are back, folks. This time I am joined here by Winida. How are you doing? And I am a butcher of names, so I apologize if I got that wrong.
Oh, no, they spelled it wrong. There's an A, not an E, but I don't care. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing outstanding. I'm doing all right. We had a super busy day at work. It was beyond chaotic, but hey, I mean, it's prime time for certain ops, so it is what it is. But we got another matchup for you guys, and it's gonna be Apex versus Syntax. We're gonna get to see Apex yet again, an opportunity to rise from a rough start from what we saw earlier. So we're going to see a little bit of what that's going to look like. So far, Syntax is in the first position with a 100% win-loss with a round differential of +7. And like I said before, Apex with a round differential of -5. So they've got a lot to prove here, and it's going to be tough competition for them, at least statistics-wise. But hey, we all love an upset story, don't we? And plus, we're so early in. I mean, this is like the most volatile times possible, so don't lock anything in. There's always room to be wrong. Or very right. Who knows?
Syntax coming off the back of a forfeit win due to a team dropping out. So
Oh,
really,
the
we don't
forfeit.
know what we don't really know what we're getting out of Syntax tonight. It could be a godsend tier of a team, or it could be a masterclass disaster. We don't know, as this is really
Fair
and
enough.
truly their first game being played.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you pointed that out because I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, a forfeit win, that doesn't really tell you anything. So let's actually kind of take a look at the stats and the rosters. First up, we've got Apex. Their loss was on Nighthaven. We saw that on stream. And they've got a lot that now to prove. They got to show that they are able to kind of play among with the best because yeah, they played up against Unreal Nightmare. It was tough. It was a really tough matchup for them. But I hear that we've got an even Steven map potentially. So we'll see if that's the case, or maybe we're gonna get something completely different, but that could be the break that they need. I don't know. But either way, that's what they've got going on. And as far as their roster goes, we've got Money, Will, Trisky, Clab, and Sierra. We've seen them before, and now there's another opportunity for them to try to fight this one out. But for our second team, we don't unfortunately have any stats for them because, again, it was a forfeit. So we're going to take a look at Syntax, and their roster is going to consist of Yumzy, West, Flexo, Hex, and Obsession. So we're going to finally get to see what they're made of and what they can put out.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, this Syntax core has been together for quite some time, so you would expect, especially on more of a basic map, maybe like a Nighthaven again, or Chalet, like our last map, Clubhouse, something along those lines. They don't know their stuff, because they've been together for a while. Those fundamental basics are going to be down. So I'm really curious to see how they play as a team, and how they work together.
Yep, 100%. Now with the map bans going through, Lair, Banks, Sky, and Consulate off the board. Those are all non-classic 3. Border and Nighthaven off the board. Getting really close. I guess the rumors are true. Cafe Chalet out. We are going to Clubhouse. One of the true 50-50s. This is a coin toss. It is anyone's game for this one map in particular. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it. Maybe they're tired of it. But regardless, it's one that is burnt into the soul of every competitive Siege player. At least the ones who've got their fundamentals down.
That's a great point. Fundamentals are going to be everything in this game. It's going to come down to who can do the basics better. And quite honestly, you don't get unorthodox things on Clubhouse. We've all seen every kind of attack. So it's going to come down to how well can you read into your opponent and then counter what they do, whatever they throw at you. And speaking on Apex, they just came off of a loss on Nighthaven. Nighthaven's a pretty fundamental, strong map as well. Not as coin flip as Clubhouse, so I'm curious to see if those problems that they were having on Nighthaven translate onto Clubhouse.
Yeah, we'll see it. But I mean, there are still some teams who don't know Nighthaven all that well. How That's a $1 million question. I feel like everyone's kind of gotten this map down pat at this point. But either way, we're gonna see if it was a map experience thing or if there are genuine cracks showing for Syntax. We'll see what holds here. Because the thing with Clubhouse, it's so heavily rehearsed, even the littlest misstep can have devastating consequences. Even losing a single player can define how everything leading into the round conclusion is going to be. With the bans, we've got Azami, Ace, Maverick, and Castle off the board. Anti-barrier, but also very heavily anti-breach. What do you make of this?
Well, the anti-breach screams that we're going to be going to a lot of issues getting these walls open. Now they are opting for a basement first round, leaving the HIB on the board, meaning that these hatches aren't going to be as much of an issue. But when we do translate to the top floor, these walls are going to be an uphill battle. Without the castle, though, that leaves the question, how effectively can you keep these walls closed? Opting for the basement without an Azami should be quite, at this point, not that difficult. Everyone knows how to play basement without Azami these days. She's one of the most banned operators, even 3 years after her release. Goes to show how powerful she is. All hatches will be closed as well, meaning, and going off the op lineup, we're leaning toward more of a bunker. How does Apex attack this? I'm very curious. Never mind, I said that backwards. How does Syntax attack this? I'm very curious.
No, I mean, it's not, either way, it's an interesting question to be held. How do you go about defending this, honestly? Especially when you don't have all that major stall available. I mean, you're not seeing any Goyos, no Legions, no Smokes, nothing. So, I mean, if Syntax can really get their boots down, that's all they really need. But keep in mind, there is, other than Yumzy's little EMP secondaries, there's nothing else to stop hatches from being cated off. So there's some tricking opportunities, but also some disruption too. If Yumzy gets taken out by a roam, there's no redundancy. Those hatches will not get open. So there's some high stakes in Syntax's composition. Very little to no redundancy whatsoever. So every player lost is a devastation. Apex just has to find somebody on the side of Syntax. Who that's going to be, we'll see in a moment. But either way, whoever it is, it's going to hurt.
Absolutely. It also begs the question, what is their plan at execute? There's no smoke grenades. Other than flashes, what really can you do to get this bomb down? And going for a hatch take, that's kind of your objective. But on the side of Apex, I can kind of keep doing that. What do you have to stop it? A couple nitro cells. Other than that, you have no real denial. It's gonna come down to who can get the first opening, and then who can really stall out the other side. Getting an aggressive play on the main stairs does not pay off.
Yeah. I mean, it's a low impact op lost with Omni getting taken out. But either way, it still sets a tempo. And now all those key players on the side of Syntax are going to remain in Apex. It won't really have the ability to disrupt it. 2 Nitros gone down, and so far none of them connected, and hatches are going through, no problem. Now vertical established, but it's at a slow pace because every player is so important. They've had to be super safe about this, and this means poor time efficiency. 43 seconds, but keep in mind, there's nothing physically stopping them from just walking on in. There's really no slowdowns, no barriers, nothing. The only thing that's a real risk is the nitro that Trixie still has remaining, but that's about it. However, this Cade Claw probably came in just a bit too late, and they will be able to get that hatch open. So none of that tricking. They will be able to drop down wherever they please. But it all comes down to, can they get a safe tank down, which is going to have to be the question as they're running down in time. Zibin goes down thanks to Flex, so that's 1 off the board. West taking major damage, looks to take 1, now running it down. 7 seconds on the clock. Trixie, the last one remaining, gets cleared in blue. And look at that, Apex gets a very defining win.
You absolutely said it, though, that they had to be very slow. those hatches were getting open at about the 40-second mark because, like you said, they had to be very patient with what they did, because if they lost an operator like that Dokkaebi, that round is over. They can't get hatches and they're walking doorways. And even then, you saw the Dokkaebi have to come from her flank watch position all the way to get the hatch open to
Attackers need
rotate
to
back
locate and defuse
because
as many
of that
bombs as they can.
issue that they only were bringing the one set of EMPs. Now, obviously, they did almost get the point down. I don't know if it actually went down, but it came off the back of getting an opening pick and just then steamrolling one after another. It was like a domino effect. There weren't proper trades opportunities set up by Apex, A, due to the man count, and B, just not winning individual gunfights. Opting for the same lineup from the attack, slightly different from the defense though.
Now we're going to see what Apex is going to try to do differently here. We do have a bit of a slowdown available, and that's going to be thanks to Will on Apex to try to slow Syntax down just a little bit. But that's really all we see. I mean, there's also the Aruni 2 from Jolly Can't Aim. There's a bit of potential there, but the problem still remains that there was very little roam other than All Money, and All Money cannot get any big damage. Again, there's no redundancy, so if they just play aggressive and take even one, Apex has a good opportunity. But the question is, do they take that chance? And that's what we're pretty much hunting for if you're on the side of Apex, is looking to get even one down. That's already a big disruption. Whether or not that actually happens, that remains to be seen, because up to this point, Apex has been very passive. Though now you've got Jolly Can't Aim all the way into Strip, which is a long distance away, but if played patiently enough, and Will does go down early, does manage to catch one, there's the answer for that. There's a good opportunity to really lay down a hurt here, because I mean, drone-wise, we're looking at 2 drones, but not a whole lot of utilization.
No. And opting to have Jolly lurk all the way is going to punish Syntax in the way that they were moving so slowly. Apex, not Syntax. Gonna keep doing that, I promise. In the way that they move so slowly, having a player way off, unknown, they haven't established he's there, this can punish. Same with Will getting aggressive. They don't fully know, and he gets the pick onto the Nomad. Nomad did get util down. Now it's down to a 3v5, and things are looking grim. Getting it open, struggling though. One more EMP is gonna come out to get this. Obsession gets a pick, but here comes Jolly on that lurk. Never disguised. Still don't know. This could go big, or it can round up to be nothing. 45 seconds left. They do know.
They know.
Has to take a gunfight here. Does he? Even though he just died, burnt so much time, and they still don't have anything for execute. They have to funnel doors, and this is exactly what the defense wants. 2 nitro cells in pocket, intel. They have to burn what little util they have left. All they have is a dope call and some hip charges. This is spelling disaster.
Yeah, this is really a high-stakes situation. Now we're finally seeing the push-up. The trades come through, and Syntax is not looking for the better, but Yumsy's still trying to dive anyway. No diffuser hand, looking to try to take some players out, try to catch some heads, but no time and can't find any key positions. It's going to be timeout, as Apex will be able to pick up their first on basement. They're lagging, but they're still able to keep even, at least for now.
I think Apex played into that really well. They diagnosed that Syntax went really slowly, so they leaned into it. They allowed, hey, you guys are just gonna play your own pace, and we're gonna meet you at that point. And they couldn't get hatches open because they waited so long, on top of Will getting 2 very crucial picks on the Nomad and the Ash. That's your spearhead and your flank watch gone. Granted, Nomad did get some util down already. Still very impactful frags, putting them in a very difficult situation, and they didn't have any util to really make anything happen at that point.
Indeed. And now we look at a second floor gym and bedroom play. Now, I would say the more classic site to play in a standard clubhouse rotation. So you can kind of flip between gym and bedroom and basement. Not really CCTV though. That's kind of a gutsy play there. But it's interesting how we're kind of seeing a reversal. Typically when you play a safer site, it's the defense who kind of come out, unless you're going for something like CCTV in bedroom, which, you know, teams will try it, see if they can kind of get that out of the way rotation-wise sooner, but that never occurred. They didn't go for it. And on top of that, they lost their basement. So this site potentially is going to be looming CCTV, and that could be a chance for Syntax to pick them up around, because traditionally this site is quite defender-sided. It's very tough to attack it unless you can get a very convincing clear into CCTV and construction early on, which, considering how slow Syntax can be, that is going to be way easier said than done, especially when you've got 1 in construction and 2 over by cash. The numbers are stacked, unless Syntax is feeling gutsy and goes for a dive straight into gym and bedroom, which I doubt it.
So, speaking of going slow, Apex has opted to run a lot of stall ops on that side. They have a Warden deploy with shield top right, and if you notice, other than Ash, what do they have to stop? And there goes your execute op. That's nuclear. For a site like Gym, Grim is everything, and losing him to essentially thin air, that's terrible. Ash opting to walk up garage, trying to take some kind of space, but we're a minute and 45 left, and we haven't established any control, really. Some shots, hurting some shots, but...
Yeah, nothing meaningful to speak of so far. I mean, we're looking at a 3v4 situation here. Finally gets some grounds with Red, and that's going to be thanks to Hexamio, but it doesn't all that matter as the cross has been disrupted, especially thanks to that walk-up coming in from Will, and now you got a player behind your back. Paranoia from Yumsy to have to navigate. This is kind of what we're talking about. This is one of those power positions where you kind of have to be coordinated, and you have to push hard, and there really wasn't that force multiplier available for Syntax, and Apex punished that severely, especially with the basement plays thanks to Will. Now with a minute on the clock, you still got players down by first floor, both completely splintered, 1 low on HP. This is not looking too hot for Syntax. They're gonna have to pick up the pace quite rapidly and find some kind of breakthrough, maybe an opening that Syntax will provide, but otherwise it's gonna be a heartbreak as Flexo goes down. That's a triple. Thanks to Will, who will bring that out. Now, gonna be a 1v3 onto a funnel. Does manage to catch Yumsy, though. Or, I'm sorry, Zivin, who's a little bit too eager to take that fight over by bedroom. Now trying to push the corner, but runs right into a loving Nitro waiting for him.
Will playing this lurk, if they don't figure out how to deal with him, and soon, this might just spell disaster. They are stalling out at every point of contact, no matter where. It can be the first point of contact, like they did on Plat. You see players still on the Plat balcony without getting into the building, and we're a minute 45 left. They're stalling out, and Will is just running around, getting those picks, and causing almost a scent of fear, where they really don't want to move. They want to watch their flanks, and now they're burning clock and still losing these ones. They're not together either. The refrags are non-existent. If they don't figure it out, this is going to be a disastrous rest of this half. Opting to go CCTV, the last site, unless they feel like pulling out Bar, which I don't know about you, I haven't seen Bar since 2020, so not shocked on this pick. Going for the mirror though, no wall denial. Granted, they can't get wall. They have a Hibana and that's it. Opting to run Hibana, but other than Hibana and some hard breach gadget, what are you going to do with the wall? So that begs the question, what's going to be the play? Operator lineup says a garage main wall. At least the capped out, that's what that says, but then what? That's the question that Syntax need to be asking themselves is, then what? Would you find them bringing almost, it feels like the wrong utility for the site. They can roam clear effectively with the util, but after that roam clear, that initial take, what are they gonna do? With this op lineup, I'm concerned about what they're gonna do. they're gonna have to get these early picks, and they haven't been. They've been losing these early engagements. Early engagement taken by the Mirror pays off none.
Well, I think there's a lot to what you said earlier about the lurkers. That has been a major thorn on Syntex's side, though they do have a little bit of an opportunity available to them, and that's the fact that other than lobby, it's kind of hard to lurk on this map. There's not a lot of opportunities because it's all direct sight. I mean, there's minimal walk around without getting exposed to the outside, so you don't have to worry about that quite as much unless you try to go for garage like you said. Then in that case, a player like Zivin, who's already down by bar, could potentially pose a problem there. So it's kind of one of those, depending on where you take, it either is a problem or not at all. And that's where I have to wonder what Syntex's angle is going to be. Because if it is garage side, they're going to be in for a bit of trouble because those lurkers have been a major pain point. But if they go for a direct take, there could be a much better shot awaiting them. But you still got players over by Bedroom on Apex who could be ready to run out to even disrupt that plan at any given moment.
Absolutely. They're struggling. They have some kind of holes in the wall. They're just kind of poking and prodding at the defense. They're doing, honestly, just poking, hoping for a mistake. If they're able to catch one of these players out, that's going to be a lot of space taken. Captain goes down, burning a smoke cannon. That's it. And so far, still able to live. Damage on the Twitch. And where is your pinch? There it is. Fenrir goes down, but the damage is done. Your primary execute op is gone. Dot dies. Garage is now up for grabs. But now we have another wall of issue. Your black player just died. Now what? How are you going to get in, and how are you going to put that bomb down? Bomb down on the outside. Looks like we're going to win this round off of the mistakes of Apex. Apex is out swinging, and that's causing issues. Last two players bunkered up on site. Jaeger dies, leaving Mirror in a 1v1, or 1v3, not a 1v1, but Mirror is going to look to find these 1v1s. Separated, the attack finds them. That's not English, that's Yoda. Establishing where this last player is, which is exactly how they need to be playing this. If they can find this Mirror, which I think they just did, this could end perfectly. But Nitro Cell in pocket, this could also spell the end of the round. Nitro Cell does not land, traded out. Wow. Lot to unpack.
Yeah, the classic 1-for-1 perfect trade. But I mean, honestly, Apex just kind of overexposed themselves there, to be 100% honest. A lot of overly bold swings. They thought they could kind of try to snuff out Syntex, and that just did not happen at all. Which is kind of confusing, but it makes sense, because we kind of saw that scenario, right? That they had a direct side take. Yeah, they were kind of poking and prodding, but Apex loves to lurk and run around. And so, yeah, they naturally overexposed themselves, trying to, you know, dwindle the numbers down as they'd done so well, but they misread it. It didn't come from their direct sight holds. That wasn't where their strength is. It's from their lurks. But once that was refragged out, everything just kind of fell into place.
Camera in position.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, they kind of just felt as though they could keep doing their swinging, and it didn't work. Syntex was relying that in those dying moments on the mistakes of Apex, and that's exactly what they did. They made mistakes, and Syntex was able to capitalize. Which, in that point, they started to move forward and never got punished for it. And that is all you can hope for out of Syntex, is capitalizing on those mistakes. If they can keep that up for the next 2 rounds on this offense, they might be in a golden position to retake and honestly win this half, so to speak.
Sure. But now we're gonna see a little bit of a flip side from Apex, as they're now looking to invest into a lot of stall utility. I mean, you've got now Goyo and Smoke all dedicated just to slowing Syntex down even further, which honestly could be devastating unless Syntex learns to move fast, and so far they have not quite gotten a memo on that. But I am gonna say what makes me nervous is Will looking for a gunfight, walking all the way up to main. I get they're trying to build phantom pressure, but if one or the other goes down, especially Smoke with that active utility, that's going to be a devastating loss that will be very hard to account for. But on the interesting side of things, Wisp is now pushing towards tunnel, which presents a direct site pressure, which often isn't something they go for. In fact, you even have one in blue too, Flexo. That's a big pivot. If they can keep that pressure, burn off those smokes and Goyos, they can easily change the narrative on what they've been dealing with on basement. It's harder because you have that additional stall now with a minute and 25 remaining, so they're going to have to find an opening relatively soon, and they do spot Valkyrie over by the balcony with one in pit. That is dangerous, but at least they know about it, and they can be ready to fight it off.
Absolutely. This Valk trying to continue to do the work. Gets one on the Dokkaebi. That's huge. And honestly, at what point do you just say ignore the Valk? Gets the refrag. All in all, did it right, but you lost your Dokkaebi. And that's a big execute op. Coming down to these final minutes, what do you have established? They have blue control, refrag gotten immediately. Curious to know how they didn't catch him out prior to, but oh well. And here comes the execute, moving in fast. Bandit goes down, Smoke goes down. We're left in a 1v3, just like that. Plant going down on dummies. How does Jolly address this? He's got to find ones. Sees one, does not react. IQ finishing out this round, and quite honestly, a good solid attack. I will say some small mistakes. Overall, you'll take that if you're Syntax, especially after those first 2 rounds.
They found their golden ticket. Don't play the long game. Play the short and fast. They pivoted to oil pit. They pivoted to blue and tunnel very quickly. And even with that stall utility, they found a gap and were able to run right through it. The longer that Syntax holds outside of sight or tries to take key positions, which they're not having a good track record for at the moment, mind you, that's where they get hit. Right there, when they're putting direct sight presence, lurkers and roamers become predictable. It's not about hiding, it's not about sneaking around, it becomes an, oh crap, I have to get back to sight. There's only so many ways to come back to sight, so it narrows the possibilities down dramatically. And with some good drone work, which we saw, some really good drone work coming out of Syntax, especially with that warehouse drone watching out for that walk-up. They had that prepared, and they were able to shut that out so they could execute without interruption. How you do that for Gym and Bedroom, though, kind of hard. It's almost impossible unless you want to be really gutsy, go for that Jacuzzi and Gym run-through, which teams have done. So it's a bit harder to accomplish, especially when you still have to deal with construction watching that hop in. But done correctly, it is still theoretically possible. It just needs better coordination than what you would typically require over by Cash, though that's a struggle in of itself. So what we're kind of seeing is Syntax realizing that their key to victory is getting direct site presence as soon as humanly possible. This is one of the hardest sites to do that, so I'm hard-pressed to believe they pull off a 4-2, but if they learn that lesson, take it well, or at least learn from their mistakes in Gym and Bedroom, maybe there's a chance.
Most definitely. They do have a lot of stall util, but Syntax bringing the Thatcher. That cancels a lot of that out. Granted, getting this plat wall open is going to be difficult, but doable with these candle coins. As you see right now, that's what they're doing. They're getting this plat wall open. They're establishing early control. Minute into the round, and we're getting somewhere. You feel a slight tempo pickup, but there's still a big hill to climb, and that's that Warden. Again, though, they have a Thatcher. This Thatcher cancels out Warden, and you have a lot of flashback. Legion getting flashed from, I'm not entirely sure where, Garage. Caught out in rafters, gets the pick. Refrag gotten. Mirror falling back on refrag. Does he know about the block? Yes. Gets the block. That, if your Syntax, cannot happen. Back to the uphill battle. You still have virtually no control of anything. You have some walls open, but the important wall, like this cash wall, is still closed. How do they address it? You have no Thatchers. You have to run.
Oh my
okay,
gosh,
that works.
Gutsy. I love that. Hey, I mean, if it gets it done, it gets it done. Able to get the surprise onto the rotate, too. That's a big opportunity. Now you've got CCTV, you've got Cash, Garage. I will say, though, I'm not going to give too much credit to Syntax, though. They had someone watching that lobby, and they walked away from it. Still kind of hung up on that. Either way, though, messy as it was, they still learned, and they got the job done, taking that power position. But now they're down on the clock, 37 seconds remaining, with all money still hot on the mirror, holding that construction and Cash walk-in. You got that Nitro pre-place, too. That's what got them killed that one time. But gonna set it off immediately this time, and it's not gonna connect. Now we're seeing the pivot coming in from Syntax, as they're now looking to go for a direct take, which was exactly something that I was looking for. But you still have those Grims that are gonna hold you up. But it seems that Apex is slowly catching on to this, holding that tight corner. That's gonna be nasty, as Zivin will take Yumzy, looking to take another, but it'll be all money to shut down the hop-in. They called the rotate, and they were ready for it. It's all about feeling the tempo, and Apex, they've got it down, putting it to an even 3-3 split.
We're going 3-3, which to me, that as a coach, that's 0-0, and you're swapping to defense, which, as most sane R6 players are, which I don't think there are any sane R6 players, defense is more easier than offense. They come to you. So I'm very curious to see how Apex handles this. Going off of how they were playing their defense, I would assume a little bit faster than what we saw to Syntax. More of a tempo change. They're gonna fight you on these power positions, and I'm curious to see how Syntax handles it. Do they fight back? Do they fall easy? Do they succumb to the pressure, or do they stand their ground? On a map like Clubhouse, you just saw how effective standing your ground can be. Ace and Blackbeard are the bans for the offense, and the defense is Cade Zombie. So these walls are not going to be that difficult, but Basement just became a whole different can of worms, seeing that Cade is now banned. Those hatches are not going to be easy to keep closed, if at all. Wonder if that's going to bring out more extensive roams, what most people know as like an SSG roam. I do believe we are going upstairs though, and that is an accurate play. Bring in the castle, Bandit. Screaming, Bandit tricking. No Mira. Curious to see what they're doing without the Mira. Mute, Jaeger, Warden. Warden, deployable shield. Looks like it's going to be a pretty similar hold to what we just saw at Apex.
Well, I mean, you can't be too surprised by that. That's kind of the default composition, but Syntax is kind of showing their true colors on their defense. We wanted to see if maybe they're playing it slow was a bit more of a strategic kind of thing, but it seems that it's more of playing it safe, because that's a very safe pick, going gym and bedroom off the rip, as well as the composition that we're seeing. This is all very standard. There's nothing really here that screams new or experimental, which of all the maps to play that way, Clubhouse is the one that you can get away with it the most, though it all comes down to how they can hold off Cash and CCT, because sometimes you got to get a little bit gutsy here in order to protect that. Playing it safe is kind of tough, especially once they wrap around red and you don't have roamers below, which so far there's minimal presence on Syntax. So safe can at least get your foot in the door on Clubhouse, but it might not be enough to actually win gym and bedroom, especially if that particular site goes sour. We've got Yumzy holding aggressive on the corner, finally falls off, but can't get away as Trixie will be able to shoot it out through the smoke. That's already going to be one out the board. Will take him just a little bit of damage by the window, and a very nice corner peek coming in from Obsession, able to take Will down. That's a 1-for-1 trade. You still got one really close to the window. The Nitro goes out, doesn't connect. The 1-for-1 trade comes out, and a run out finally. Syntax is getting gutsy. That's the pushback. CCTV and Cash falls apart, and same with the balcony presence, and it's all going to be up to Ziv, and who's still above and outside. Gonna have to drop this down. The drone giving away that that's the intention, goes for it anyway, and gets immediately crossed out. West taking Zivin out, helpless to turn it around.
That was just a very surgical round from Syntax. They read exactly where the attackers were, and they fought them. They said, let's double up on this person. Let's swing this guy. Even though they lost man advantage, they immediately got those refrags, which was what was missing from their attacks. I don't think Apex had man count for longer than 0.5 seconds, and that's not a joke. And it's because one died, somebody else got to pick back, and that's exactly what you want, especially on a site like that, where I think you mentioned it in the beginning. If you lose man count, that site becomes an uphill battle because you got way too many openings to hold. When, well, it's a 3v3, they can only come from 3 places. So that was a great round out of Syntax and a great start to this defensive half.
Yeah, a good start coming out from Syntax, and honestly, a little bit unexpected. They kind of had that passive mindset, but they snapped out of it quick on defense, and clearly it put Apex out for a whirl. The question now becomes, how long is it going to take for Apex to compensate for that and get a lock on? We do see Jolly Can Aim going for the Nomad, so it does look like they're going to try to at least stop some of these roam-out or run-outs and flanks. Whether that's effective, though, all comes down to how they get a grip on their top-down and if they clear a strip. Because if they don't fully box in their control, those Nomads can taper in effectiveness quite quickly. Especially, well, I was going to say, especially considering the presence of impacts, but there aren't any. So it's kind of hard to shoot those out without exposing yourself. So Apex does have a really good opportunity to try to keep a control on the positioning, which is what burned them last round.
Most certainly. Now, you'll notice that Syntax doesn't have a lot to stop the hatches. Actually, nothing. No K to these banned and no impact. So they opted to go for more of a denial, more of a setup, let them set up for their execute and shut it down. That's one of the easiest ways to play Siege because you don't have to do much, but it doesn't matter. Jolly gets one, Will gets another somewhere else. That's both of your plant denials gone in Smoke and Warden. Warden less than Smoke. One Nitro cell on the board. What answer do the defense have? Fight on this main stairs will net a kill on Dokkaebi. Still an uphill battle though. Even on a site like Basement, but what kind of control does Apex have? What are they looking for? Minute 30 left, they got a lot of time to find out these last 3 players and figure out how they want to deal with them. Obsession gets another one on the main stairs. Somehow allowed to then get a fallback, if I'm not mistaken. No, he's committing to that position. Quad kills the round. Holy shit. Falling back finally. There's your answer. That's the answer that Syntax needed. I asked the question, what do they do? Obsession gets 4. That's what they do. And now it's up to 2 flashbangs and an R4C. What do you do? A lot of time on the clock left to establish some kind of drone work, but I don't believe he has any drones left. So it's just gonna be walking through doors and hoping. Shotgun up close, looking for that ace. Does he get it? I guess we're about to find out. Early engagements found. Poking and prodding damage. What can he really do here? We're still fighting for a little space, but not much to be found. More damage done. This is almost like, what do you do? There isn't much to do. I keep repeating myself because I don't know what to say, because there isn't much to do. Does Obsession get the ace? Yeah, he does. There you go. That's what he was waiting for.
Finally got that ace. I mean, for saving the round like he did, he kind of deserves it. But one small question, you know, not trying to be, you know, mean or anything, but just a small query for, you know, Apex. Where was the Nomad on main stairs? Where was the airburst? You could have stopped all of that. You already had 1 dead. 2, 3. You really needed your whole team to die to realize you should have put 1 there. I want to give, you know, Apex some hope here, but these are just the little things that can wreak havoc. if you're worried about keeping control and you bring Nomad in response, that's kind of a basic Nomad to put down. Because the losses on that were obviously round defeating one person, sweeping an entire team. That's, if you want to win this map, that can't be acceptable. It's not an option. Because we've already seen the damage that 2 can do, and now you have one lone player that can wipe out your entire team when you have control, when you have the edge. That's not a good look. That shows a lack of sustainability. And you know what that does? That gives ammunition to Apex, or I'm sorry, Syntax to be bold and just run it down. In fact, they got punished for it, but it didn't matter. Now there's almost an immunity of, so what, we lose 1. So what, we lose 2. Screw it, so what, we lose 3. Oh well. Star player, do your thing.
That, yeah, not to keep harping, but that's a mistake that just cannot be made. I mean, you have everything in your tool bag to deal with that. A bunch of flashbangs and a Nomad. Like you said, a Nomad. The entire point in bringing that operator is to not allow something like that to happen. And, yeah. On to the next round, though. Going for what seems to be kind of a poke and prod. They have a Montang, looks to want to lock garage here, but that's difficult. But slowly but surely, minute in, they're just establishing early control. Dot gets pushed out, Monty's already all the way up the stairs. This is going perfectly for Apex.
Push forward.
Refrag immediately. Never mind, somehow it went from perfect to, now what? Stalling out. Monty is all alone. I don't think they know that. One on Plat. Now Thatcher, yep. Holding that cut, helping that Montang as much as he can. But what do you do?
Hard to answer that question, as so far everything starts to fall apart. A big pushback onto site, and that's going to give Apex a clear opening to try to go for a plant here. But we're going to see Jolly Can't Aim try to push this even further. Will is down, and it's now coming down to trying to get that plant out. But the shield comes out. There's the shield bash, and Jolly Can't Aim will be able to finish West off. That's going to give Apex their first round in a hot minute, but you got to keep in mind that was on one of the most attacker-sided sites onto Clubhouse. Though they did hold their grounds well, and they were able to put out some punishment onto Syntax. They were feeling gutsy, they felt they were untouchable, and Apex showed that you still got to play smart with your roamers and your lurkers. You can't just get away with being all aggressive 24/7.
Most certainly. I mean, even some little mistakes and some pickbacks from Syntax, Apex could not have drawn that up much better. They had the initial, they got all the space they wanted very early. They got that space right away, Rafters control, and it just was a collapse on site. Yes, somebody flanked, they got that player back eventually, so a mute point all in all. They were able to replace and reposition in a, not surgical, had some mistakes, but it was a very good round in what you want to see out of Apex. Opting to go back to CCTV, now that to me is a bold choice, being what is kind of the tertiary site out of these 3. Opting to go here over that gym that you saw that they played super well. So I'm very curious to know what was the decision making behind this. Opting as well for, I believe, the same op lineup. So I'm curious to know what kind of adjustments they make. Now they did ban the Monty. That might be the surge of confidence that they need to say, yeah, we can win this site back. Now, I would disagree. I think a lot more went wrong than just the Monty. But if you're able to hold that garage longer, the better. Two-Brow will stall out the wall, but that wall will get opened eventually. What kind of adjustments do you think they made, or will make, to actually win this round out?
I think the biggest thing is now they're not going to let the shield build space. They're not going to let Jolly Can't Aim get up onto top of rafters, so they can at least control the narrative and have a bit more flexibility in how they position their operators. Also, I think there's a bit of a method to the madness here. I think what Syntax is trying to prevent here is a situation where they have to repeat a site in order to win the game. Here, if they lose like gym and bedroom, they can switch to basement or vice versa. If they win this site, I think that's kind of what they're trying to go for here. Is they don't want to have a situation where they have to repeat the same site, or God forbid, play this site on a losing streak in order to close it out or risk overtime. So I think it's kind of a map rotation dynamic that they're trying to leverage here, especially in lieu of the Monty ban. They think this is their hottest chance to secure a match point with flexibility to secure a regulation win. But with that being said, now we're going to see whether or not that actually pays off. So far, there hasn't been any serious tangible progress in taking Raptors from Apex. This is a much slower move. In fact, it's a pivot, as we're going to see them mounting an attack towards construction. You see them trying to get that single wall open. You also got Jolly Can with that pistol wide open and ready to try to nail somebody, looking for some form of opening, but so far none are given. The wall finally gets opened. All money taken, significant damage. The fire comes out. West able to take Truxky down. It's going to be 2 out. That's Thermite and Capital. Their potential is already out. You still got smokes available, which Jolly Pan Aim is leveraging, trying to get that walk up into cash. Meanwhile, over in first floor, will be able to take Hexamo down. That's going to put it to a 4 and 3. Now we're going to see Jolly Can try to go for a corner play. He's trying to sneak up onto that single wall and go for it. But you do see that run out. Can't really get any meaningful damage other than Ziven, who's now very low. Tries to go for a melee bash. It doesn't connect. West also taking significant damage. 40 seconds on the clock. Pressure very close to go for the plant. There's the bash. No one's there to cover. You gotta protect your corner player if that's your condition to stop the plant. Now Jolly Can Aim is going for it. Yummy gets the nice shot onto Will, but that fuser's going down, but the numbers collapse, and now it's all up to Jolly Can Aim. The blitz shield, the flash comes out, has to even those numbers down quickly. Otherwise, it is gonna be a very hard situation. A shield versus numerous defenders is a nightmare scenario, but already bogs one number down. Diffuser not down, couldn't get it, but it doesn't matter as blitz goes out. Jolly Can Aim. The shield reign of terror is over as we're now heading to match point. This is now Syntax territory, baby.
And you were absolutely right with that site rotation. Now they get to play two of the best bomb sites in the game, if you ask me, in Gym Bed. And like you said, if they lose one, we get to go to the other now, with knowing that it's on match point. This is everything. Now, that was a very good standstill from Syntax. They just said, you know what? You can have all this space. Get in the site and tell me what you're gonna do. You can't, because we're gonna stop you. And if you notice, they had nothing. They had no nitro cells, no smokes, nothing to stop that plant other than their guns. And it didn't matter because you can't get in. Even after dealing with that corner player, now what? And that mirror staying up, I don't know if they realized that there was a mirror or not. After that, it's too little too late. They had nothing to deal with it other than smokes, and they just could not get in and get any ground. Now, the other very interesting question is, why was Nomad still on board, or your Nomad place a Nomad down and go? Help your team. They, I do believe, also then died on board, or I got nothing. Or no, they got a pick. But it still begs the question, why are you wasting your time down there when you can be helping the rest of your team? That Nomad could have done a lot up and a lot sooner. They also ran out of time and pressure came on. But mute point, we're on match point. The next 2 rounds have got to be perfect siege out of Apex. Bringing a very aggressive lineup. This might be that minimal take, which Thatcher's dead, but the wall is going to get open. What does that mean now? Not a lot, but that minimal take you alluded to earlier, the fast, the one that takes a lot of coordination, that's what I think we're about to see.
100%. I think that's what we can come to expect there. I mean, Syntax has been pretty good about you know, kind of coordinating their roams, their attacks. But here's where things get tricky. Apex is now trying to mount their own coordinated attack. They do manage to take top of Red. Now you got West, who's completely stuck in a corner. Where's the support? He's all alone. Goes down too. Cash in CCTV. Now in Syntex's control, or Apex's control. A little bit of pushback coming in from Obsession. Not done with that ace. Looking to get a little bit more damage in. But Jolly's getting bold here. Smokes off Logi. Now right at the doorstep of Sight itself. Looking to get that pressure. But here's the big picture. Diffuser is all the way out by Jacuzzi Breach, and surely Syntex knows about this, so you can pressure all you want, but if you can't grab Diffuser, what does it mean? Nothing, unless you can kill those players outright. And with 1 minute and 18 seconds to go, if you're gonna get gun heavy, you can't keep your numbers going down like that. Obsession taking a triple kill, Will going down. Now it's off the Jolly can't aim. The Shield versus 3 yet again. And statistically and historically from this matchup, this is not looking good. 1 minute and 2 seconds to dissect it. All Syntex has to do here is be disciplined and not get greedy here, because once it becomes 1v2, suddenly this is a lot more viable. And there's that mistake! Eximo, no! Now it comes down to isolating. This is suddenly a lot more manageable for Apex to keep this alive a little bit longer, but that Fenrir is going to keep him blind just a little bit, but pushes through into Jim. These close quarters are his territory. The Nitro goes off, but doesn't connect. That's another suck in the corner, clears it out! You cannot let Blitz isolate you like that! Apex is still in it!
What are you doing? You have a 1v3, and your Fenrir gets aggressive and dies in the middle of bomb site. Okay, individual mistake. Why are then you allowing the same mistake to happen again and again? 3 isolated ones in a minute of in 30 seconds is unbelievable, and you just let Apex pull a rabbit out of their hat out of nowhere. We just saw that exact scenario, and Syntex won it. They played it correctly. What happened in those 2 minutes that we forgot how to play that kind of position? Unbelievable round. Unbelievable mistakes, and a great round by Jolly. He found the ones, he wasted out their nitro cells with the pressure, and just took his ones and won them. With a handgun, that's not an easy task. I don't care if it's a shield, that's not easy, and he managed to do it 3 times. Unbelievable round. Now we're going to basement. The end all be all. This is, we're either going to OT or we're done 7-5. Going for a Ying Grim, to me, and I've tried to predict these attacks and I've been wrong almost every time. This looks like a blue dirt minimal. We're gonna hash drop kitchen, Ying Grim it out, and take fast. Not fast, but take. Once we do take site, we are going 3, 2, 1, go, go, go. So I'm curious to know what their plan to stop it is. They have a Goyo, they have a smoke, it's almost like they know exactly what they want to do. The denial is incredible. So it's gonna come down to who can waste more util. Can the defense waste out all these Candelas and Grims? Or can the offense manage to find a way to burn out all of the denial they have, which is a mountainous amount of 2 nitros, an impact grenade, and 3 smoke cans? This is an uphill battle.
This is going to be much more doable when it comes to trying to lock this out. But I mean, you gotta give massive props to Jolly Can't Aim though. Sure, he's had some major blunders, but boy, does he know how to save the day with that shield when it really counts. And now we're gonna see him on Ying, so we'll see if they can do it again. A 1-for-1, Drisky and West both taking each other out. That's your hard breach down. That far from ideal.
That's bad. That's really bad. Yes, you do have 4 cannon burners and 2 impacts to still get the hatches, but that's bad.
Okay.
Your Wamai dying is also bad. This is just bad errors on both sides of the ball. Who can capitalize on it? That's gonna be the million-dollar question. It seems that we're just establishing some control. We're gonna start droning and finding the odds, but with only 3 drones, they don't have a lot of intel to work off. It's gonna be finding these players by face checking. They're, again, just establishing all those hatches, getting that control going, trying to find something. This might be huge, and it is. All the hatches are open, so killing off the sentry, he got his util done. But with 40 seconds left, you need all the guns possible, and losing one is not ideal.
Now down to a 3v3 situation, and above Kitchen, they have vertical, they've got hatches. Despite losing Ibana, they do still manage to pop those open anyway. Now with 25 seconds left on the clock, it all comes down to that drop, but you've got a shotgun holding close, and that's from Obsession, and we've seen what Obsession can do with that kind of weapon at the helm. The Candela's finally coming down. The fire's still burning. That's going to pose a problem with Jolly, Canadian, and Zivin, both at low HP. Will going down, but it's going to be low HP. Trey's going back and forth. Now it's going to be all up to Zivin to look for the haunt onto Flexo, or try to force his plant, but with no time remaining, it'll be Syntax to clear it out. It was looking close, but Syntax still had the cards on their hand.
That was a very good holdout. All they had to do was wait patiently. Yes, they did lose important players. That player down in blue still was able to hold on. They just set up those crosses and allowed, no matter where they dropped from, somebody had a gun on it. And by the point that Jolly went in and got two, it didn't matter. There is still another person close. He's got the pick. No plants going down. And Bram is off in Timbuktu. I don't honestly know where she ended. I think it was short. I could be wrong. It's a great, great final round out of Syntax. And that is a full regulation match. An improvement out of Apex from a 7-2 to a 7-5. But they still cannot close out these matches.
Yeah, it definitely is starting to look like a pattern, an improvement, but still a pattern of now back-to-back losses. That's gotta hurt for Apex. Though, let's take a look at those stats and kind of see where we're coming from here. As far as Apex goes, their survival ratings, actually everyone's survival rating for that matter, was actually extremely low. But then again, we've kind of seen how Clubhouse tends to play out. Syntax, their low survival rating came from those flanks and kind of flashy plays to try to disrupt. But from Apex, it came from trying to, force those executes, minimize their contact. Same with Syntax. So there really was not a whole lot of fluff or, utility leverage to try to keep a gap. It was all for that same direction of going for the kill. So yeah, obviously you're going to have really low survival ratings across the board. But the main thing I want to bring up is look at Obsession's KD. Holy crap, 21-9. What a demon. Plus 12. And also a KOST of 75. So they're not just useless frags, as some like to call them. They're impactful, and at the very least, on death, also has an impact too. So Obsession's just always in the right place at the right time, as we saw there. But even though we kind of see a loss for Apex, but you cannot go without giving props to Jolly Can't Aim. He truly was keeping the team alive, 15-10 with a +5 differential, and also a respectable KOST of 66.67 as well. But we've also got some pretty nasty headshot ratios too, especially of 75% coming in from Trixie, even though -2, but when those shots connect, it was always going for the head. So, better aim than me, I can tell you that much.
I think another important stat to bring up is look at the entries. Almost, other than Obsession, all negative on the side of Syntax, and all positive other than Ziv on the side of Apex, and that speaks volume. That tells me that even when you get that initial man count, you can't capitalize on it, and that is a terrible thing to have. If you are able to get that man count and very early on, and you can't capitalize on it, that's a very big issue that you have to address in your next couple of scrims and game days, whatever it may be in practice. You have to figure out, okay, when we get that man count, what do we do with it? I don't honestly know fully when it happened, but if it's on the offense, just slow it down. Let's address the next issue. And if it's on the defense, okay, we had man count. Let's back up now. They, especially on the defense, they kept fighting. And in those later defensive rounds, you saw that it didn't work out for them. They would get the initial, and then two would fall, and it would become a domino effect, and that's a very big issue.
Right. So yeah, I mean, honestly, still much better improvement, but there's still a lot to kind of be caught up on, especially when it comes to coordination. There was just a lot of like sometimes big blunders, sometimes small, but either way, one little piece and all comes apart. So there's definitely a fundamental difference, and don't get me wrong, Syntax wasn't exactly clean either. Apex very much could have overtaken it if they had taken advantage better of Syntax's lack of setup. If they can't push directly, they hurt bad, really bad. They don't have a good time with that on attack. So don't get me wrong, there's gaps on both sides, but Syntax was just a lot better on defense, and they were able to take the fight and counter offensive, and that's honestly kind of the deal breaker for a lot of defenses. As teams get better on attacking, if you play passive, you're going to lose every single time. I mean, attack strats are literally designed to be untenable in a 5v5. You got to do something to try to shake it up. So that kind of sets that in stone. But with that being said, folks, that's going to be it from us here at AEL tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. That's going to be it. Have a good night as we quickly approach the weekend. Take it easy, and I'll see you on the next time. Me and Winheda. Take it easy, and we'll see you around.